The silence in the imperial dining hall was absolute. Empress Velythria Skarn sat at the head of the obsidian table, her 6 arms arranged in formal court position, her crystalline carapace reflecting the cold light of status projectors that floated throughout the chamber. Around her sat the most powerful beings in the Skarnath Empire: military commanders, trade ministers, planetary governors. All of them pretended not to notice the small figure in the adaptive mobility chair beside the Empress. Princess Lyessa Skarn, heir to the throne of 17 worlds, had never spoken. Had never walked. Had never, in her 8 years of existence, shown any response to the world around her. The best physicians in the Empire had examined her. The finest neurologists had studied her unique neural pathways. All agreed that her consciousness existed somewhere deep within, unreachable and isolated. The Empress loved her daughter with a ferocity that had toppled governments. But love could not bridge the gap between them. Love could not make her child smile. "We will proceed with the trade delegation agenda," Velythria announced, her voice carrying the harmonic resonance that marked Skarnath royalty. "The human colony representatives should arrive within the hour." General Kraith, the military advisor seated to her left, made a dismissive gesture with 3 of his arms. "Humans. They persist in these diplomatic overtures despite their obvious inferiority. Their technology is primitive. Their lifespans are brief. Their empire spans barely a dozen worlds. Why do we waste time with such negotiations?" "Because they control the Thorian shipping lanes," Velythria replied coldly. "And because underestimating species based on their development level is how empires fall. The humans have proven surprisingly resilient. We will treat them with the respect appropriate to potential allies." The doors to the dining hall opened and the human delegation entered. Velythria assessed them with the practiced eye of someone who had negotiated with 1,000 species. The leader was a woman named Ambassador Torres, middle-aged by human standards, carrying herself with diplomatic precision. Behind her walked 2 aides and, surprisingly, a young human male in the simple uniform of service staff. "Your Imperial Majesty," Torres said, executing a credible approximation of the Skarnath formal bow. "Thank you for receiving us. We bring greetings from the Terran Colonial Authority and hope for mutually beneficial discussions." "You are welcome, Ambassador. Please, be seated. We have prepared refreshments suitable for human biology." Velythria gestured to the table, then noticed the service worker lingering near the entrance. "Your attendant may wait in the preparation area." "Actually, Your Majesty, if you will permit it, Jasper has unique skills that may be relevant to our discussions. He has studied Skarnath culture extensively and can assist with translation nuances." The young human Jasper looked uncomfortable with the sudden attention. He was unremarkable by human standards: average height, brown hair, perhaps 25 years old. His hands fidgeted with a small data pad. Velythria was about to dismiss him when Lyessa made a sound. It was barely audible. A soft vocalization, the first Velythria had ever heard from her daughter. The Empress froze, her multiple hearts suddenly hammering in asynchronous rhythm. She looked at Lyessa and saw something impossible: her daughter's eyes were tracking the human. Following his movement. Focused. "The attendant may stay," Velythria said, her voice carefully controlled despite the storm of emotion building in her chest. "Jasper, please approach the table." The human walked forward with visible nervousness, clearly aware that every eye in the room was now on him. He moved past the ambassador, past the military commanders, and stopped near the imperial section of the table, directly in Lyessa's line of sight. And Lyessa made another sound. Louder this time. Her small hands, which had never grasped anything with intent, reached forward slightly. "Jasper," Velythria said quietly, her voice taking on an intensity that made the entire room tense. "What are you doing?" The human looked confused. "I am not doing anything, Your Majesty. I am just standing here. My daughter is responding to you. In 8 years, she has never responded to anything. And now she is responding to you. Explain." Jasper's eyes widened. He looked at the princess, really looked at her for the first time, and something shifted in his expression. May I approach her, Your Majesty? Every guard in the room went on high alert. General Kratha's primary hand moved toward his sidearm. But Velythria raised one arm in a gesture that froze everyone in place. You may. But understand that if you harm her, no force in this galaxy will save you from what I will do. I understand. Jasper moved closer to Lyesa's chair. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. Hello, Princess. My name is Jasper. Can you see me? Lyesa's eyes locked onto his face. Her breathing pattern changed. And then, impossibly, her mouth curved upward. She smiled. The Empress made a sound that no one in the chamber had ever heard before, a sob of pure, overwhelming emotion. She is smiling. My daughter is smiling. Jasper looked just as shocked. I do not understand. What am I doing that is causing this? That is what you are going to explain to me, Velythria said, rising from her seat. Guards, clear the room. Everyone except Ambassador Torres and this human. Now. The chamber emptied rapidly, leaving only the Empress, her daughter, the ambassador, and Jasper. Velythria moved to Lyesa's side, her 6 arms trembling slightly as she touched her daughter's face. Lyesa, my little star, what is happening? What is it about this human? Jasper was studying the princess with intense focus. Your Majesty, may I ask what the medical specialists have told you about the princess's condition? She has a neural processing disorder. Her brain develops normally in some areas but not others. She cannot integrate sensory information the way most Skarnath do. She exists in isolation, unable to communicate or interact with the world around her. Has anyone tried non-traditional communication methods? Every method known to galactic medicine. Neural interfaces, telepathic bridges, sensory manipulation. Nothing has worked. Jasper was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his datapad and began entering information. Your Majesty, I am not a medical specialist. I am a waiter at a restaurant on Earth. But my younger brother has a condition that human doctors call autism spectrum disorder. His brain processes information differently than most humans. For years, we thought he was trapped inside himself. But he was not trapped. He was just communicating in a way we did not understand. What does this have to do with my daughter? Skarnath communication is primarily sonic and pheromonal, correct? Your language has harmonic frequencies that convey emotion and status. Your social cues are based on chemical signals and physical positioning. Yes. That is basic biology. Humans do not have any of that. We cannot detect your pheromones. We cannot hear the full range of your harmonic speech. When I look at the princess, I am not broadcasting any of the sensory information that is probably overwhelming to her. I am just a human. Simple. Quiet in ways that matter to her neurology. Velythria felt her breath catch. You are saying she responds to you because you are the first being she has encountered who is not constantly flooding her with information she cannot process. It is possible. My brother learned to communicate once we found modes that worked for him. Visual cards instead of speech. Written words instead of social expectations. He was not broken. The world just was not presenting information in a way he could handle. The Empress looked at her daughter, seeing her with new eyes. You are saying Lyesa is not disabled. We are disabling her by existing in ways she cannot interpret. I am saying she might just need a different kind of interpreter. Velythria made a decision that would have shocked her advisors if they had been present. She, the Empress of 17 worlds, knelt beside a human waiter and asked in a voice stripped of all imperial authority, "Will you help me reach my daughter?" Over the following hours, Jasper worked with Lyesa using methods he had learned with his brother. He started simple, showing her images on his datapad without speaking. Colors. Shapes. Human faces displaying exaggerated emotions. At first, nothing happened. Then Lyesa reached out and touched the screen. She is interacting, Velythria whispered. She is choosing. Jasper smiled. Princess, can you show me which image you like best? Lyesa's hand moved across the screen, hovering over different images before settling on a picture of Earth's ocean, blue water under a bright sun. Water, Jasper said. You like water. That makes sense. Water is calm. Predictable. No overwhelming stimuli. He pulled up more images. Lyesa responded to each one, her small hands moving with increasing confidence. When he showed her a video of rain falling on a forest, she made a sound that was almost a laugh. Your Majesty, Jasper said carefully. I think your daughter experiences the world in a way that is beautiful but alien to Scarnath neurology. She is not broken. She is just different. And with the right support, she might be able to communicate everything she has been feeling all these years. Volithria felt tears forming in her optical organs, a physiological response Scarnath only experienced under extreme emotion. My advisors will say this is impossible. That you are a human with no credentials, no authority, no expertise. Then your advisors are fools, Ambassador Torres said quietly. She had been standing silently in the corner, but now she approached. Your Majesty, Jasper worked at a restaurant on Earth that specialized in serving neurodivergent customers. He has more practical experience with non-standard cognitive processing than most specialists. He is being modest about his qualifications. Why did you bring a restaurant worker to a diplomatic mission? Volithria asked. Because humans value the people who understand compassion over the people who just have titles. Jasper volunteered for this mission because he wanted to learn about other species. I brought him because sometimes the best diplomacy comes from those who see beings as individuals rather than representatives of governments. Volithria looked at Lyesa, who was still absorbed in the images on Jasper's datapad. Her daughter was calm. Focused. Engaged with the world in a way she had never been before. Jasper, the Empress said. I am going to make you an offer. Stay here. Work with my daughter. Teach our specialists what you know about alternative cognitive processing. Help us build a world where Lyesa can thrive. The human looked genuinely conflicted. Your Majesty, I am honored. But I have responsibilities on Earth. My family. My brother who needs me. Bring them. I will provide housing, resources, whatever you need. Your brother can receive the finest care available. Your family will want for nothing. In return, you give my daughter the gift you have given me today, the knowledge that she is not lost. That she is reachable. Your Majesty, that is an incredibly generous offer, but I am not offering. I am begging. Volithria's voice cracked. I am an empress of 17 worlds. I command fleets and armies. I have negotiated treaties and toppled governments. But I cannot reach my own child. You can. Please. Help her. Jasper looked at Lyesa, who was now making small happy sounds as she scrolled through images of waterfalls and rain. How can I say no to that? Over the next 6 months, everything changed. Jasper brought his family to the Imperial Palace. His brother, Connor, was 15 years old and had his own challenges with standard human social interaction. But put Connor and Lyesa together, and something magical happened. They communicated through images, through touch, through shared silence that spoke volumes to those who understood. The Imperial specialists resisted at first. They were experts trained in the finest institutions in the galaxy. They did not appreciate being lectured by a human waiter about neurology. But Volithria made her position clear: adapt or find new careers. Slowly, the specialists began to see what Jasper saw. Lyesa was not non-responsive. She responded beautifully when given the right stimuli in the right ways. She could not handle the harmonic complexities of Scarnath speech, but she could communicate through visual symbols. She could not process phenomenal social cues, but she could express preference through touch and choice. The technology developed for her began to be used with other Scarnath who had similar neurological differences. It turned out that Lyesa was not unique. There were thousands of Scarnath across the Empire who had been written off as disabled when they were simply different. You are starting a revolution, Ambassador Torres told Jasper during one of her follow-up visits. The Empress is restructuring educational systems, medical practices, social support networks. All because you showed her that different does not mean broken. Jasper was watching Lyessa and Connor play a game involving colored lights and tactile feedback. I just did what anyone should do. I saw someone struggling and tried to help. That is what makes it revolutionary. Most people do not try. They accept the status quo. They believe the experts. They assume that if someone cannot communicate in standard ways, they have nothing to communicate. You challenged all of that. 8 months after their first meeting, Villithria hosted a ceremony in the Grand Hall. Representatives from all 17 worlds attended. The event was broadcast across the empire. At the center of the hall, Lyessa sat in her adaptive chair. But now the chair was equipped with a communication interface designed specifically for her needs. It used visual displays and tactile feedback to translate her thoughts into speech. Villithria stood beside her daughter and addressed the assembled crowd. For 8 years, I believed my daughter was lost to me. I loved her, but I could not reach her. I assumed that her silence meant she had nothing to say. I was wrong. She has been speaking all along. We simply were not listening in the right language. She gestured to Jasper, who stood nearby looking profoundly uncomfortable with the attention. A human waiter, with no formal credentials in neurology or medicine, showed us what our best specialists could not see. That the problem was not with my daughter. The problem was with our assumptions about what communication should look like. The Empress turned to Lyessa. My daughter, would you like to speak? Lyessa's hands moved across her interface. A synthesized voice filled the hall, speaking in perfect Skarnath harmonic speech. Mother, I have always loved you. I have always known you loved me. I was never lost. I was just waiting for someone to understand the language I speak. Thank you for listening. The hall erupted in a sound that no court ceremony had ever produced. Unrestrained emotion. Hardened military commanders wept openly. Government officials who had spent careers maintaining composure broke down. Even the most cynical politicians felt something crack inside them. Villithria embraced her daughter with all 6 arms, no longer caring about royal protocol or maintaining imperial dignity. I am sorry, my little star. I am sorry it took me so long to understand. Lyessa's interface spoke again. You did understand. The moment you were willing to ask for help. The moment you let someone show you a different way. That is when you understood. After the ceremony, Villithria found Jasper preparing to return to the guest quarters. You are free to leave, if you wish. You have given me my daughter. I can never repay that debt. Your Majesty, respectfully, you do not owe me anything. Your daughter was never lost. She was always there. You just needed someone to point out that not everyone communicates the same way. You did more than point it out. You showed an entire empire that we have been failing thousands of our citizens by assuming our way of communicating is the only valid way. Educational systems are being redesigned. Medical protocols are being rewritten. Social support structures are being built. All because you refused to accept that a child was unreachable. Jasper smiled. Your Majesty, I am just a waiter from Earth. I am not special. You are wrong. Anyone who sees a suffering being and offers help without expectation of reward is special. That is the definition of compassion. And compassion, I have learned, is the most powerful force in the galaxy. Villithria paused, then continued. Ambassador Torres tells me you wish to return to Earth. That you miss your home. But before you go, I want to ask one more thing. Will you accept a position as Cultural Integration Advisor to the Imperial Court? It would involve traveling between Earth and the Empire, helping us understand human perspectives on neurodiversity and communication differences. The pay would be substantial. And you would be changing worlds, literally. Your Majesty, I am not qualified for that position. You are the most qualified person I know. You have the qualification that matters most. You see beings as individuals rather than categories. You understand that different is not deficient. Those are not skills you can learn in universities. That is wisdom that comes from living with compassion. Jasper looked at Lyessa, who was showing Connor something on her communication device. Both children were happy, connected, thriving. I will do it, he said. But only if Connor can be part of the program. He has as much to teach as I do. Then it is settled. The Empire welcomes both of you. 2 years later, the Neurodivergent Integration Initiative had spread across 17 worlds. Schools that once segregated students who communicated differently now celebrated multiple forms of expression. Medical professionals who once tried to fix atypical neurology now work to support and accommodate. Social structures that once marginalized anyone who did not fit standard patterns now recognized that diversity in thinking was a strength. Lyessa had become the face of the movement. At 10 years old, she used her communication device to give speeches about acceptance and understanding. She advocated for others like her. She taught the Empire that disability was often just a mismatch between a person and their environment. Change the environment, and the disability might disappear. And through it all, Jasper worked quietly behind the scenes, training specialists in the compassion-first approach he had learned from living with Connor. He never sought recognition, never demanded titles or honors. He was just a human who had seen someone suffering and decided to help. On the second anniversary of their first meeting, Villithria hosted a private dinner for Jasper, his family, and the princess. No diplomats. No officials. Just the beings who had changed each other's lives. I have been thinking, Lyessa said through her device, about the first time we met. I remember looking at you and feeling calm for the first time in my life. You were quiet in ways I needed. No overwhelming harmonics. No confusing pheromones. Just a human who smiled at me. I remember, Jasper said. You smiled back. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Mother, Lyessa continued. I want to tell you something. I was never unhappy being the way I am. I was only unhappy that no one understood. You spent 8 years trying to reach me. But I was always reachable. You just needed help understanding the path. Villithria felt tears forming again. I know that now, my star. And I am grateful every day for the human who showed me the way. He did not show you the way, Lyessa said. He showed you that there were many ways. That my way was just as valid as yours. That is the gift. Not reaching me, but accepting that I was already whole. Jasper raised his glass. To seeing each other as we truly are. To accepting that different is beautiful. To the connections that change worlds. They drank together, human and Scarnath, family and royalty, teacher and student, all of them bound by the simple truth that compassion transcends species and status. Later that evening, as Jasper walked through the palace gardens with Connor, the younger boy spoke quietly. You saved her, you know. The princess. You saved her life. I did not save her. I just helped others see that she did not need saving. She needed understanding. That is the same thing. When people understand you, they stop trying to change you. They start trying to change the world to fit you. That is what being saved means. Jasper put his arm around his brother. You are right. And you taught me that. Everything I showed the Empress, I learned from you. You are the real hero of this story. Then we are both heroes. We saved each other. The two brothers walked through the alien garden under stars that were not Earth's, in a place they had never imagined visiting, surrounded by beings they had never dreamed existed. But they were home. Because home was not a place. Home was understanding. Home was acceptance. Home was being seen for who you truly were and being celebrated for it. And somewhere in the palace, a princess who had spent 8 years in isolation was laughing with her mother, secure in the knowledge that she was not broken, not lost, not less than anyone else. She was simply, beautifully, herself. And that was enough. That had always been enough. The human waiter had not given her the ability to smile. He had given something far more precious. He had given an entire empire the ability to see what a smile from someone different truly meant. That was worth more than all the worlds in the galaxy. If you enjoyed the story, like the video and subscribe for more. Thank you.